Gibson have become arguably the most polarizing guitar brand and guitar company here on the planet over the last 15 years or so. There's no question. A lot of people have grown to hate them, but they still have their core of diehard fanatics that will buy anything just because it has Gibson's name on it. They're a very, very polarizing company for a number of reasons, but whether you love them or hate them, you cannot deny the fact that they have had a tremendous impact on both the instrument and the industry. So that said, I thought it would be fun to go through and talk about 7 things about the Gibson Guitar Company. I think they reverted their name back to the Gibson Guitar Company, or maybe are they still Gibson brands? I guess it doesn't matter. 7 things that you might not know about Gibson. 7 fun facts.
Just play the damn thing.
Number 1, most American guitar companies, most guitar companies in general, that produce an import line. The import line is almost always subcontracted out to one of the guitar factories in China or Korea or Indonesia, most notably. Gibson, however, are an exception to that. While their import Epiphone line, all the Epiphones, or most of them anyway, are made in China, Gibson not only owns that factory, but they also operate it. That's right. Gibson owns the factory that produces their import line. Not too many companies can say that. Number 2, you're having a conversation with somebody about guitars and somebody says that they just don't build them the same way they used to. They don't build them as well as they used to. They don't build them like they used to, anything like that. Wrong. Think again, because with Gibson, that's not true. With Gibson, it's called the Custom Shop. If you were not aware, the Gibson Custom Shop, all of those old, all of those machines and everything that they use to build those really, really high-end, really uber expensive guitars that come out of that factory, those are the same ones that Gibson was using to build all of their guitars with back in the golden era of the 50s and 60s. Back, all the McCarty era stuff, those are the machines that they were using back then that are now used to build your high-dollar Gibson Custom Shop guitar. Number 3. If you've ever had the experience of pulling a brand new Gibson guitar out of its hard case right out of the box for the very first time, you probably noticed a very, very sweet smelling aroma in the case. I've seen people guess what that aroma might be, anything from cake batter to ice cream to, who knows what it might be. Turns out that fragrance is actually vanilla, and Gibson scents all, they odorize all of their, they use it on all their guitar cases. Every single guitar case that comes out of the factory, they scent it with that vanilla scent, and it lasts for quite a long time. Pretty interesting. Okay, maybe not, but I think it is. Number 4. 1952 was the very first year that Gibson produced the Les Paul. A lot of people know that, but did you know that the guitars produced in 1952 did not have serial numbers? Gibson guitars from that era are notoriously difficult to date even with the serial number, but if you have one that doesn't have the serial number, it can be extremely difficult. Number 5, when they were designing what would become known as the Les Paul, particularly the body, and they came up with the carved top, a feature that has been on Les Pauls for ever since their inception, 70-something years now. The carved top was thought that it would help project the sound outward a little bit more, and that's pretty common knowledge. What isn't common knowledge, though, is that another big reason why Gibson opted for that particular feature on that particular model is because none of their competitors had the means to offer it on any of their guitars at all. At that time, no other solid body guitar maker was able to offer a carved top on their guitars. Only Gibson could offer that at that time. Number 6. Speaking of the Les Paul body, did you know that that originally that body was supposed to be the same size as most traditional Gibson acoustic guitars? Can you imagine playing a solid body Gibson Les Paul that was the size of a J45? Obviously, they opted to cut down the size quite a bit because the weight would have been astronomical, and that was the primary reason why they opted not to build them that big. Thank God they didn't. My God, can you imagine that? That would have been a 30-pound guitar easy. Number 7. Last but not least is one of my all-time favorite stories from Gibson lore. We all know that the earliest Les Pauls, and for the first several years, were all what have now come to be known as gold tops. One reason why they chose gold as the color is because it was already decided that that would be the solid color for the ES-295s that were already headed to production at that time. But number two, the Les Paul was the first guitar that was using two different woods. It had a mahogany body and a maple top. And the reason why Ted McCarty really wanted to make sure that the tops were painted gold was to hide the fact that they actually had a maple top on them. He wanted everybody to assume that the bodies were solid mahogany all the way through, which would have added more mystery, more to the mystery of how they got the tone that they did. Ted McCarty is quoted as saying the reason why he wanted to paint those guitar golds was, quote, so that prick Leo couldn't figure out what kind of wood I was using, end quote, or something like that. So there it is. There's 7 things about the Gibson Guitar Company that you might not know. If you already knew these things, this video isn't for you, but hopefully you learned something in it. And regardless, I just love sitting around talking about the history of guitars. And I think some of the most interesting history is surrounded by the Gibson Guitar Company. Thanks for watching. Adios.